everyone. Today we're going to talk about economy for business, and we're going to talk about the most important and common law in business, okay, for MBA students or in generally in all business. So the first law is the scarcity law. When something is rare, all right, so the price of this something will go up and vice versa, okay? We call this law the supply and demand law. Sorry. Okay. So if something is rare, the price of it goes up, and if something is not rare or common, the price will go down of anything. This almost control all things in economy. The second law, or principle, let's call it, elasticity. When we say the price of something is elastic, means sometimes even if who make these things change the price of it and increase it, people still buy it. Why? Because it's either a trend or important. So, for example, iPhone has an elastic price, means even if the company decided to increase the price of the iPhone, people still buy it. Okay? So does changing the price change how people see or the probability that people could buy it? This is what is, if a product is elastic, the price of it is elastic or not. Of course, there's a range. So maybe if you increase the price $100, $200, $300, people still buy it. But if you increase like in a way, it's unrealistic way, like imagine selling an iPhone for $1 million, probably you're going to lose most of your customers. So elastic, a price is elastic or not. So also there is a principle that cost in general has two types. Fixed means something that we already agreed on, like salaries, rent, whatever. Okay, so you know that in the end of the month you're going to receive that much, $10,000 or something. And variable, like the exchange rate between dollar and euro, for example. So you don't know. It's variable. It could change over time. Like the price of gold, for example. So also there's something called the market structure. Think about it. They say, scientists in economy, scientists says there's 4 types of markets in the world. First, market with a perfect competition. That means there's a lot of everybody sells the same thing, no big difference in price. Okay, think about it like vegetables, for example, or someone who's selling medical gloves. Okay, pretty much the same product everywhere. So no, you can't change the price as you want because you have other people who are selling the same thing. So in this case, they call it a perfect competition. The second type of a market, which is monopolistic competition. And you can tell from the name, similar things, you could sell similar things with small differences. Think about it like people who produce phones, cars, sometimes even less than that. There is differences like clothing brands, okay? They all sell jackets and jeans, but There's differences, of course. You can change the price, but not too much, but more than the perfect competition. The third type of market, they call it the oligopoly competition. There's few big players like airline companies, telecom. Okay, those companies could control the market because there are few companies who actually give this service. Okay, final type of a market, which is monopoly, and you could probably heard of the game. Monopoly means there is only one company that provide this service, like electricity, water. Okay, in some countries. Okay, so you have to pay because there is no other company that you could go for. Okay, so this is the 4 types of a market in economy in general. Inflation, now we're going to talk about inflation for a bit. They call it the silent thief. Think about it. You have a $1 million in your bedroom, for example. Okay? What you could do with $1 million today is not like what you could do with $1 million after 2 years, because the inflation actually makes money loses its value over time. And we have a formula that the future value of a money would be the present value of that money divided by 1 plus R. Okay, discount rate, like inflation, divided up to the power of t, which means how many years we're going to calculate for, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, okay? So this is why we talked about a concept like NPV before, okay, because it calculates the actual value of a money over time and see for your investment if your money going to loses its value or not, okay? Also, I want to talk about interest rate. Interest rate. Everybody, like the economy, the modern economy has this idea so strongly. Interest means simply the price of money. Okay? Why some people believe it's a wrong idea, because money is not something for sale. This has actually caused a lot of problem, but the modern economy relies on this principle, the interest rate, okay? Because when interest goes up, everything goes up. And even companies stop to expand, people stop buying things, stock market fail, all the bad things that you think about in economy happens when interest rate goes up. Okay, simply you're selling money, the price of money. Okay, this is why lead to inflation. This is one of the main reasons of inflation in the economy. Now, the next concept is one of the most common used to see how big the economy of a country is. They call it the GDP. G means gross, mere, like a mirror, like okay. D means domestic, and P stands for production. So it tells you how big the economy of a country is. Like a country with, for example, $1.7 trillion. Okay, that is a big economy, for example. And it has a formula. To erase everything here. Okay. It has a formula which is GDP equals C, which is consumption, plus I, which is investment, plus G, the government spending, okay, for a year, for a period of time, usually for a year, plus X minus M, which is export minus import. And it could be a positive or a negative number. Depends. if the exportation is more than importation or vice versa. And we could use this term GDP to compare the economy of a country. And we have to know something, that when a GDP is high does not mean necessarily that people are happy. Okay? Does not mean that. It means the country has a strong economy, a big economy, a large economy, but does not mean that people are wealthy or happy. It has nothing to do with it. Okay? Could be, could be not. So, generally speaking, a large GDP means a country has a strong and big economy. Okay? It means high production, more jobs, more competition. Okay? But does not mean that the quality of life in this specific country is necessarily good. Could be yes, could be not. Okay. So now I want to talk about a different thing. Let's move on to a totally different topic, which is human resource management, HR. Resource, probably write it in the correct way. Okay. Excuse my writing. So they call it HR. Probably you've heard of this. So managing people, because people are not machines. People have fears, dreams, hope. You could motivate people in specific ways. There's a lot of theoretical part of this side of MBA or economy, but I'm gonna try to speak a little bit about the theories, the most common and famous theories in human resource management. They call it the Maslow's hierarchy of need. Okay, there is a scientist called Maslow. He's a scientist. Okay, hierarchy means hierarchy. Hierarchy means things that people actually need, because hierarchy means they're not at the same level. So I need to drink water and I need to go to vacation sometimes, but they're not the same. They don't have the same importance for me. Think about it like that. So it's a hierarchy. Okay, so he says that humans have 4-5 levels of needs. Physiological, like food, safety, okay. Second, safety, related to jobs, like stable jobs. They want to feel, employees, that they won't be fired anytime, okay. Thirdly, social needs. Okay, belonging to a team, building friendship, stuff like that. Also, the fourth need, which is to have respect, to feel they're respected by others, they have recognitions. And fifthly, self-growth, so they could feel that they're improving over time with their job. Okay, all right, big talk, no problem. It's a theory. Okay, I'm not going to write things here because there is no math or something. Another theory actually says that people have two factors to motivate people. Factor one, hygiene factor, safe environment for working, stuff like that. Second, motivation, that you have to motivate your employers. Okay. Now the third theory says XY theory. It says that there's two types of managers. X managers, they think that workers are lazy, should be controlled. Managers should use punishment to control his worker, stuff like that. And the opposite, which is the Y management or Y manager, the opposite. People like to work, people like to handle responsibility, workers shouldn't be punished, should be rewarded, stuff like that. All right, no problem. I'm going to spend much time about this. And the final thing which I want to talk about, which is something called job analysis. This is very, very important. What we mean about it, which is a job analysis, you have to put an accurate description for a job. Okay? So as a worker, I want to know exactly what's the job that I'm going to work in. Okay? Second, specification. So I would know my tasks exactly. Okay? Specification. Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. So I would know exactly what's the things that I'm supposed to do. Okay? For my position. This is very, very important because imagine this is a small scenario before I end. There is a worker who works as a writer in a company, okay? And the manager asked him to prepare coffee, to make coffee for everybody, okay? The worker could say, I'm sorry, manager, it's not my responsibility because in my job description, it never says that I have to make coffee for everyone, okay? So legally, the manager can't say anything to the worker because, all right, in his job description for this worker, it never mentioned coffee, making coffee for others, okay? He should write articles, write reports, blah, 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 but it never says that he should make coffee, for example, okay? So any decent organization or any organization should have this job analysis. Describe each job accurately. What's the tasks a worker is required to do? All right. Thank you and goodbye.